about death metal, what comes to mind? Like, probably darkness.
Right.
Aggression, maybe some fire. But then you get a band like OGRE, and it's like all those things get, literally interdimensional.
Yeah, and that's what's so interesting about this deep dive. Like, you've got all these sources, and it's not just your typical band bio stuff. This is OGRE, and they're not just playing music. They're claiming to be these interdimensional beings on some kind of, like, mission to, I don't know, enlighten humanity.
Okay, hold on. Let's back up a bit there. We've got, like, Fourth Ron the Evil on guitar and vocals, because of course that's his name.
And he's not just the frontman, right? This is, according to him, Fourth Ron the Evil, omnipotent interdimensional mystic older than time. You've also got Chu Giblet on bass and vocals, Jean de Baptiste, Prophet of Babylon on drums and effects.
Right. So from the get-go, you know this isn't your average group of, like, guys who play music together. But before we go too far into the cosmos here, let's rewind to their origins for a sec.
They started out in the Dublin metal scene, like late 80s, evolving from a band called Frost. They had these early demos, sonatas, hatas, just raw, brutal death metal, that classic sound.
But even then, you can hear, like, there's something more going on. Like, they were playing around with different sounds even then, right?
Definitely. One source even described it as, like, going from harsh grinding parts to death metal to sludgy rocking doom, you know?
Wow.
Yeah, they weren't afraid to experiment. Then in 1994, boom, they released Dark Filth, their debut album, and they cement themselves in the underground. And then, poof, they vanish.
Gone. And I know bands take breaks, but this wasn't just a break. OGRE straight up claimed to have discarded their mortal bodies.
Which brings us to, like, the whole mythology they've built. They come back in the 2010s and they're saying, oh, we didn't just break up, we went on an interdimensional pilgrimage. They went to study, get this, universal chaos.
Universal chaos, okay.
Yeah, and each member, they claim they spent those years, like, honing their skills in something they claimed misery intensification.
Misery intensification. Now, that's a phrase that just, like, begs for further explanation. What is misery intensification?
Well, it's, you know, they don't ever actually, like, define it directly. But from what I can tell from these sources, it's like a core part of their whole philosophy. It's like they think to really understand something, especially like the darker parts of existence, you have to experience suffering and chaos, immerse yourself in it.
So instead of just singing about darkness, they thought they had to, like, live it on a cosmic scale.
Yeah, basically. And they're saying this experience is what influences everything. Their music, their message, their whole understanding of, like, the apocalypse.
Which is where things get even more interesting. Because they don't come back from this interdimensional trip with just, like, a new album. They come back with what they call prophecies.
Right. Their 2014 album, Bastards of Death, is not just music, according to them. It's their attempt to, like, channel their apocalyptic visions into, well, sound. They're saying it's not just an album, it's a glimpse into the end of everything. And it's not just, like, vague doom and gloom either. Some of these sources, they talk about specific things. Like, for example, OGRE says the Large Hadron Collider. Yeah, that thing.
They say it failed to close a dimensional rift.
Oh, right. The rift they claim they accidentally opened at that gig in Dublin back in '98 at the Temple Bar Music Center. They say that's what's going to cause, like, the end of the world, right?
Yeah, and I mean, that's a pretty out there claim, right? Some people, they just say it's OGRE being smart, you know, drumming up publicity.
And, I mean, it's working, right? Death metal band ends the world with a show in Dublin. It's catchy. Totally. But then you really listen to their lyrics, like the actual imagery and the stories they tell in their songs, and you start to wonder if maybe, just maybe, there's something more to it.
Speaking of the lyrics, one of the sources actually quoted a line from, get this, insane decapitation by the Supreme Corpse disposal machine. And, oh boy, those lyrics are something else. But there's this one line really stuck with me. Verily, it was all for Forthron's great illusion. I, in my vision, saw the magnificence and documented my learnings in my musical compositions.
Interesting you picked up on that one, because that right there, that's the core of their whole philosophy, right? They're not just making music, they're presenting it as like revelation, like they learned all this stuff on their interdimensional travels and now they're sharing it through their music.
So it wasn't just about them observing this universal chaos. They were like studying it, right? Trying to make sense of it. And then they took all that and turned it into music.
Exactly. Which kind of makes you think, like, even if their whole interdimensional travel thing is metaphorical, what does it say about how they see the world? How they see humanity, existence, the end of everything?
It's like they're saying the apocalypse isn't some far-off event. It's already happening all around us, baked into reality,
And that we, humans, we're just along for the ride, no matter what we do.
Yeah, it's fatalistic, but there's also this weird acceptance in it.
Definitely. Philosophically, even theologically, some of the sources I read, they compared OGRE's whole thing to Gnosticism.
Gnosticism? Okay, you're going to have to refresh my memory on that one. My knowledge of ancient mystical traditions is a little rusty, to say the least.
Right, so basically Gnosticism, it's this idea that the world, the one we experience, the physical world, it's flawed, like a cosmic illusion created by a lesser deity, a demiurge. And the way to escape, to achieve true salvation, is through gnosis. Basically, divine knowledge that lets you transcend the material world.
Okay, I see where you're going with this. OGRE's universal chaos, that's like their version of the flawed world, right? And their whole interdimensional journey, the misery intensification thing, that's them seeking gnosis, trying to see beyond the everyday.
Exactly. And their music, all those apocalyptic visions, that's them trying to share that gnosis, even if it is through death metal and all that goes with it.
It's wild, right? Taking these really complex ideas, these philosophical concepts, and then like blasting them out through death metal.
It's definitely a unique combination, like exploring ancient mysticism through a genre known for being aggressive, let's say.
But it kind of works, doesn't it? Maybe it's because death metal often deals with those big questions anyway, like death, what it all means, the stuff Gnosticism tries to make sense of.
You're right. They both kind of force you to confront the dark side of things, the stuff most people would rather ignore.
So OGRE's music, it's like tapping into that primal fear, those big questions. But instead of giving you answers, they give you this crazy mythology, these apocalyptic visions.
And it's not all abstract either, right? They weave in real-world stuff, science, politics. You mentioned the Large Hadron Collider earlier. One source even said that Pope Benedict VI, like the actual Pope, was so blown away by OGRE's music, he retired just to study Forthrion's writings.
No way!
Yeah! It's like they're creating this weird conversation between all these different things, science, religion, ancient mysticism, and music, making connections nobody else would even think of.
So where does that leave us? What are we supposed to take away from OGRE and their unique worldview?
Honestly, I don't think there's one answer, And that's part of what makes it so interesting. Sometimes the best journeys are the ones that leave you with even more questions.
Maybe it's about how powerful stories can be, like how they shape our understanding of things, even when they're about interdimensional beings and the end of the world.
Or maybe it's about keeping an open mind, Maybe truth can be found in the strangest places, even in the middle of death metal.
If nothing else, OGRE makes you think about the big stuff. Life, death, what it all means. And in a world that often tries to avoid those conversations, that's a pretty powerful thing.
For sure. So yeah, next time you come across something weird, something that makes you a little uncomfortable, something maybe even a little scary, remember OGRE. Lean into it. Explore the unknown. You never know what you might discover.
And on that note, we'll leave you to ponder the mystery that is OGRE. Until next time, keep asking questions and never be afraid to take a deep dive into, well, anything.
Pray to the night.